A strong mind is not loud. It does not argue. It does not explain itself. It does not seek approval. A strong mind is still, and that stillness makes people uncomfortable. Because when your mind is strong, you cannot be manipulated. You do not react emotionally. You do not chase validation. You do not fold under pressure. Most people live controlled by impulses, emotions, fear, and distractions. When they meet someone who is calm in chaos, disciplined in temptation, and silent in provocation, it threatens their comfort. That is why a strong mind scares people, not because you are dangerous, but because you are free. Today, we are not talking about motivation. We are talking about mental cultivation. The kind of strength built slowly, painfully, and privately. Silence is not something to escape from. It is something to step into deliberately in a world that never stops talking, scrolling, reacting, and demanding attention. Silence has become uncomfortable. Most people fill every empty moment with noise because silence exposes the truth of who they are. When there is no distraction, no entertainment, and no audience, the mind begins to reveal its patterns. This is why silence is the first and most important step in building a strong mind. It is the training ground where mental strength is forged. When you sit in silence, you begin to notice how restless the mind really is. Thoughts jump from the past to the future, from regret to fear, from desire to anxiety. This is not a problem. This is awareness. Most people live their entire lives controlled by these thoughts without ever seeing them clearly. Silence removes the escape routes. There is nowhere to run, nothing to hide behind. What remains is you and your mind. This confrontation is uncomfortable, and that discomfort is exactly why silence is powerful. A strong mind is not created by constant stimulation. It is created by learning how to remain present when there is nothing pulling your attention. Silence trains your ability to observe without reacting. When a thought arises, you do not chase it. When an emotion surfaces, you do not suppress it. You watch. This watching builds distance between you and your thoughts. You begin to understand that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. This realization alone weakens fear, anxiety, and self-doubt. Silence also teaches patience. In the beginning, sitting quietly feels like wasted time. The body becomes uncomfortable. The mind searches for something more exciting. But discipline grows when you stay anyway. You learn to endure boredom without escaping it. This ability transfers directly into real life. When pressure increases, when situations become uncomfortable, your mind does not panic. It has been here before. It has trained in stillness. People with weak minds need constant reassurance, noise, and validation. They are uncomfortable being alone because their identity depends on external input. When you become comfortable in silence, you no longer need the world to tell you who you are. This independence is unsettling to others. They sense that you cannot be easily influenced. Your calm presence reflects their inner chaos, and that makes them uneasy. Silence sharpens awareness. You begin to notice your habits, your reactions, and your impulses before they control you. You catch yourself before speaking unnecessarily. You pause before reacting emotionally. This pause is power. It allows you to choose your response instead of being dragged by instinct. Over time, your mind becomes less reactive and more intentional. This is the foundation of mental strength. Silence also strips away false confidence. Without distractions, you become aware of your weaknesses, your insecurities, and your fears. This is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to clarify your work. You cannot strengthen what you refuse to see. Silence reveals where discipline is lacking and where growth is needed. Facing these truths requires courage. But courage grows only through confrontation, not avoidance. As you continue practicing silence, your tolerance for noise decreases. You become selective with your words, your relationships, and your environment. You stop engaging in meaningless conversations and unnecessary conflicts. This does not make you arrogant, it makes you efficient. Your energy is preserved for what matters. People notice this restraint. They sense depth where others offer noise. A strong mind does not need to announce itself. It is felt. Silence teaches you how to occupy space without demanding attention. When you walk into a room without seeking approval, without reacting to provocation, without filling the air with unnecessary words, people feel the difference. Your stillness carries weight. It communicates self-mastery. This is why silence scares people. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be distracted. It cannot be rushed. In silence, you are grounded. You are aware. You are present. And presence is power. If you want to build a strong mind, start where most people run away. Sit in silence. Breathe. Observe. Stay. This is not inactivity. This is training. The stronger your relationship with silence becomes, the less control the world has over you. And when the world can no longer control you, your mind becomes unshakable. The body is not separate from the mind. What you do physically shapes how you think, how you respond, and how you endure pressure. A weak body teaches the mind to negotiate, delay, and escape. A disciplined body teaches the mind obedience. This is why building a strong mind always begins with physical discipline. Not for appearance, not for strength alone, but for control. Every time you give in to comfort, the mind learns that discomfort is dangerous. It begins to avoid effort, resist challenge, and search for excuses. Over time, this avoidance becomes a habit. The mind grows fragile, easily overwhelmed by stress, pain, and uncertainty. Physical discipline interrupts this pattern. When the body is trained to move despite resistance, the mind learns that discomfort is survivable. This lesson is powerful. Waking up early is one of the simplest forms of physical discipline. It is not about productivity. It is about authority. When you rise before comfort invites you to stay asleep, You reinforce control. You are no longer obeying impulse. You are leading. This small act carries into the rest of the day. The mind becomes sharper, more alert, and less reactive, because it has already practiced obedience, training the body, whether through martial arts, strength training, running, or controlled movement, is a conversation with resistance. The muscles burn, the breath shortens. The body asks you to stop. When you continue with awareness, not aggression, you teach the mind endurance. Endurance is not about pushing blindly. It is about staying present under strain. This presence builds resilience. Physical discipline also exposes mental weakness. The moment the body feels discomfort, the mind begins to speak. It creates reasons to quit, to delay, to lower standards. Observing this internal dialogue is crucial. You begin to see how often the mind lies to protect comfort. By continuing anyway, you weaken the authority of that voice. Over time, the mind becomes quieter, more focused, and more reliable. When the body is neglected, the mind becomes restless and unstable. Excess energy has nowhere to go, and it turns inward as anxiety or outward as frustration. Physical training channels this energy. Movement creates clarity. Sweat removes mental stagnation. This is why disciplined individuals often appear calm. Their bodies are not carrying unresolved tension. Eating with intention is also a form of mental training. When you eat excessively or without awareness, you reinforce lack of control. When you eat simply, moderately, and consciously, you practice restraint. Restraint is strength. A mind that can say no to unnecessary indulgence is less likely to collapse under emotional pressure. What you put into your body affects how clearly your mind functions. Posture and breath matter more than most realize. A collapsed body creates a collapsed mind. When you stand tall, breathe deeply, and move with awareness, your nervous system stabilizes. This stability affects how you handle confrontation, stress, and uncertainty. People sense this grounded presence. It is not aggressive, but it is firm. Discipline of the body also builds trust within yourself. When you consistently show up, train, and endure discomfort, your mind begins to trust your word. Confidence grows quietly. You no longer need external validation because you know what you are capable of enduring. This internal trust is what makes your presence strong. People fear those who trust themselves because they cannot be easily manipulated. Physical discipline is not about punishment. It is about refinement. The body becomes a tool rather than a burden. Through repeated effort, you align your actions with your intentions. The mind stops arguing and starts following. This alignment creates power. A strong mind is not created by thinking alone. It is built through action repeated daily, especially when motivation disappears. Train your body not to dominate others, but to dominate hesitation within yourself. When your body moves with discipline, your mind follows with clarity. This connection is what makes your mental strength visible, grounded, and impossible to ignore. The difference between a weak mind and a strong mind is not intelligence, strength, or experience. It is control. Control over emotions, impulses, and reactions. Most people live in a constant state of reaction. Something happens, and they immediately respond without awareness. A comment, a look, a tone of voice is enough to disturb their inner balance. When you react automatically, you hand your power to the outside world. A strong mind refuses to do this. Reaction is fast, emotional, and unconscious. It is driven by ego and fear. Response is slow, deliberate, and aware. It comes from clarity rather than impulse. The moment you learn to pause before acting, you create space. In that space, choice exists. And where there is choice, there is power. This is why mastering your reactions is one of the most important steps in building a strong mind. When someone challenges you, insults you, or disrespects you, the body immediately prepares for defense. The heart rate increases. The breath shortens. Thoughts rush in. This is natural. The problem begins when you allow this reaction to control your behavior. A strong mind does not deny emotion, but it does not obey it either. It acknowledges what arises and then decides how to act. Every time you react emotionally, you reveal yourself. People learn what triggers you. They learn how to manipulate you. They learn where your weaknesses are. This is why reactive people are easy to control. A calm person, however, offers no handle to grab. When you do not react, the other person becomes uncomfortable. Their expectations fail. Their power disappears. This silence is unsettling because it cannot be predicted. Learning to respond begins with awareness of the breath. When emotion rises, your breath becomes shallow and fast. By slowing the breath, you slow the mind. This creates a pause. In that pause, you regain authority over yourself. You are no longer acting to protect your ego or satisfy your anger. You are acting with intention. A strong mind understands that not every situation deserves a response. Silence can be a response. Walking away can be a response. Waiting can be a response. Weak minds feel the need to defend, explain, and prove. Strong minds conserve energy. They choose battles carefully, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Responding instead of reacting also requires humility. It requires accepting that you do not need to win every moment. Ego wants immediate satisfaction. Strength values long-term control. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding unnecessary conflict. You stop carrying emotional weight that does not belong to you. This lightness is felt in your presence. Life constantly tests this discipline. Traffic criticism, delays, failures, and misunderstandings are opportunities to observe your mind. Each situation asks the same question: will you give your power away, or will you keep it? Every time you choose to respond calmly, you strengthen your mind. This is training, not theory. Over time, your emotional reactions become shorter and weaker. You recover faster. Situations that once disturbed you no longer reach as deeply. This is not because you have become indifferent. but because you have become centered. Your stability does not depend on external conditions. This is inner strength. People fear those who cannot be provoked. Not because they are aggressive, but because they are unpredictable in a calm way. They cannot be controlled by anger, guilt, or pressure. Their responses are measured, thoughtful, and precise. This level of self-control commands respect without demanding it. When you stop reacting, you also begin to see more clearly. Emotion clouds perception. Calm sharpens it. You notice details others miss. You understand situations beyond surface emotion. This clarity allows you to make better decisions, both in conflict and in life. A strong mind is not about suppressing emotion. It is about mastery. Emotion becomes information, not instruction. You feel it, you understand it, and then you choose your response. This ability takes time and practice, but it changes everything. When you no longer react automatically, you reclaim your power. The world loses its grip on your inner state. And when your inner state is no longer controlled by others, your presence becomes steady, grounded, and intimidating in its calm. One of the most subtle weaknesses of the human mind is the desire to be understood, the need to explain yourself, to justify your actions, and to gain approval from others quietly drains your power. When you require understanding from the outside world, you place your inner stability in the hands of people who may never truly see you. A strong mind does not depend on external validation. It stands firm even when misunderstood. Most people speak not to communicate truth, but to protect their image. They rush to explain because they fear judgment. They fear being seen incorrectly. This fear reveals attachment. When your identity depends on how others perceive you, your mind becomes fragile. Every opinion becomes a threat. Every misunderstanding becomes a disturbance. Strength begins when you release this attachment. Being misunderstood is not a failure. It is a natural consequence of depth. Not everyone has the capacity or patience to understand silence, discipline, or restraint. When you stop trying to translate yourself for everyone, you preserve energy. That energy can be invested in growth rather than defense. A strong mind values progress over perception. The desire to be understood often comes from ego. Ego wants recognition. It wants agreement. It wants to be right. Strength, however, seeks alignment with truth, not applause. When you let go of the need to explain, your actions begin to speak louder than words. Consistency becomes your language. Discipline becomes your explanation. Silence in the face of misunderstanding is uncomfortable at first. The mind feels exposed. It wants to correct the narrative. But when you resist this urge, you develop emotional endurance. You learn that discomfort does not destroy you. Over time, this restraint builds confidence. You realize that your path does not require permission. People who constantly explain themselves invite debate. Debate invites doubt. Doubt invites control. When you stop over explaining, you close these doors. You become less accessible to manipulation. Your calm refusal to engage in unnecessary justification unsettles those who seek reactions. They sense a boundary they cannot cross. A strong mind understands that understanding is earned, not demanded. Those who are meant to understand will observe patiently. They will watch your consistency over time. Those who judge quickly reveal their limitations. You do not need to educate everyone. You need to remain aligned with your principles. When you remove the need to be understood, your communication becomes precise. You speak when necessary, not when anxious. Your words carry weight because they are not wasted. This economy of expression creates authority. People listen more closely when you speak less. There is also freedom in allowing others to misinterpret you. Their interpretations are shaped by their own fears, experiences, and insecurities. By not correcting them, you avoid carrying emotional burdens that do not belong to you. You remain light, focused, and undisturbed. A strong mind is self-validated. It does not rise with praise or collapse under criticism. This stability is rare. When people encounter it, they feel uncomfortable because it reflects their dependence on external approval. Your refusal to seek understanding exposes their need for it. Over time, you will notice a shift. You become less defensive. Your emotional reactions soften. Your attention returns inward. This inward focus strengthens discipline, clarity, and patience. You no longer waste energy managing perceptions. You invest it in mastery. Removing the need to be understood does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means choosing when understanding matters. It means honoring your values without explaining them to those who are unwilling to listen. This discernment is wisdom. When your identity no longer depends on others' opinions, your mind becomes grounded. You move with quiet confidence. You do not chase approval or fear misunderstanding. This calm self-assurance is powerful. It communicates strength without confrontation. A strong mind does not announce itself or defend itself. It is revealed through consistent action and steady presence. When you release the need to be understood, you reclaim control over your inner world. And when your inner world is stable, the outside world loses its power over you. A strong mind is not one that avoids pain, discomfort, or emotional difficulty. It is one that can remain present inside them without collapsing. Emotional endurance is the ability to stay steady when life applies pressure. Most people are not defeated by events themselves, but by their emotional reactions to those events. When emotions control your behavior, your mind becomes fragile. When you learn to endure emotions without being ruled by them, your mind becomes strong. Emotions are natural responses to experience. Fear, anger, sadness, disappointment, and frustration are not weaknesses. The weakness lies in how quickly people try to escape them. Distraction, denial, blame, and indulgence are common methods of avoidance. These habits teach the mind that discomfort is intolerable. Over time, Even small challenges begin to feel overwhelming. Emotional endurance reverses this conditioning. To build emotional endurance, you must allow yourself to feel without reacting impulsively. When pain arises, the instinct is to distract yourself or push it away. Instead, stay with it. Observe how it feels in the body. Notice the tightening, the heat, the heaviness, the restlessness. Breathe into it without trying to fix it. This practice teaches the mind that emotions rise and fall naturally when they are not resisted. Weak minds panic when emotions appear because they believe the emotion will last forever. Strong minds understand impermanence. They know that emotions are temporary states, not permanent identities. This understanding creates patience. Patience creates stability. Stability creates strength. Emotional endurance also means resisting the urge to express every emotion immediately. Modern culture encourages constant emotional expression, but expression without awareness often leads to regret. A strong mind chooses when and how to express emotions. This restraint is not suppression. It is maturity. It prevents unnecessary conflict and preserves inner balance. Life will test emotional endurance repeatedly. Failure, rejection, loss, criticism, and uncertainty are unavoidable. Each experience is an opportunity to train the mind. When you remain grounded instead of collapsing, you reinforce resilience. The mind learns that it can survive discomfort without losing clarity or direction. Building emotional endurance also requires honesty. You must acknowledge your emotions without exaggeration or self-pity. Self-pity weakens endurance because it frames discomfort as unfair or unbearable. Strength comes from acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means recognizing reality without resistance. As emotional endurance grows, you recover faster from setbacks. What once disturbed you for days now passes in hours. What once consumed your attention now becomes background noise. This does not make you insensitive. It makes you efficient. Your energy is no longer wasted on prolonged emotional struggle. People notice emotional endurance, even if they cannot explain it. They see how you remain composed under pressure. They see how you do not overreact or seek sympathy. This composure can be unsettling to those who rely on emotional volatility. They expect drama, reassurance, or reaction, and instead they meet calm. Emotional endurance also protects your decision-making. When emotions dominate, decisions become impulsive and short-sighted. When emotions are endured and understood, decisions become clear and intentional. This clarity builds trust in yourself. Self-trust is a foundation of mental strength. Building emotional endurance is a gradual process. It develops through repeated exposure to discomfort without escape. Each time you face an emotion directly, you strengthen your capacity. Over time, the mind becomes spacious. Emotions still arise, but they no longer define your behavior. A strong mind does not seek to eliminate emotion. It seeks to relate to emotion differently. Emotions become signals rather than commands. You listen to them without surrendering control. This balance creates inner freedom. When you can endure emotional storms without losing your center, you become stable in an unstable world. People feel this stability. They sense that you are not easily shaken. This quiet resilience is powerful. It does not announce itself, yet it commands respect. Emotional endurance is not visible strength, but it is deeply felt. And it is one of the strongest forms of mental power you can build. One of the greatest sources of mental weakness is attachment to outcomes. When your peace depends on results, your mind becomes anxious, fearful, and unstable. You begin to measure your worth by success or failure, praise or rejection. A strong mind operates differently. It commits fully to action while remaining detached from the outcome. This detachment is not indifference, it is freedom. Attachment to outcomes creates constant tension. You work, but your mind is already in the future, worried about what will happen. You act, but your attention is divided between effort and expectation. This division weakens focus. When outcomes become the priority, fear enters. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss. Fear drains energy and clouds judgment. Detachment restores clarity. When you focus solely on the action in front of you, the mind becomes present. Presence improves performance. You move with precision instead of anxiety. You give your full effort because your identity is no longer tied to the result. The work becomes its own purpose. Most people misunderstand detachment. They believe it means not caring. In reality, it means caring deeply about effort while releasing control over results. You can control your preparation, your discipline, and your consistency. You cannot control timing, other people, or external circumstances. A strong mind accepts this reality and stops fighting it. When you detach from outcomes, failure loses its power. Failure becomes information rather than identity. You learn, adjust, and continue. This ability to continue without emotional collapse is rare. People fear those who are not afraid to fail because they cannot be stopped by discouragement. Attachment also creates hesitation. When you are overly concerned with results, you delay action. You wait for perfect conditions. You overthink. Detachment removes this paralysis. You act because action is required, not because success is guaranteed. This decisiveness builds momentum. Life constantly reminds you that outcomes are unpredictable. Effort does not always lead to immediate reward. Sometimes it leads to delay, loss, or silence. A weak mind interprets this as injustice or personal failure. A strong mind remains steady. It understands that growth is not always visible in the moment. Detachment also protects emotional balance. When success comes, you remain grounded. When setbacks occur, you remain stable. Your mood does not swing with circumstances. This stability creates inner authority. You are no longer controlled by external validation. Committing to action without attachment builds discipline. You show up even when results are unclear. You train even when progress feels slow. This consistency compounds over time. Others may quit when motivation fades, but you continue because your commitment is internal, not conditional. People sense this mindset. They see someone who is not desperate for outcomes, someone who is not rushing or forcing results. This calm persistence is intimidating because it reflects confidence in the process. It reveals patience and self-trust. Detachment also sharpens decision-making. When emotions tied to outcomes fade, judgment becomes clearer. You take calculated risks instead of emotional ones. You respond to situations rather than react to fear. This clarity improves leadership, creativity, and resilience. A strong mind understands that effort is always within reach, but results are not guaranteed. By focusing on what you can control, you eliminate unnecessary suffering. You move forward with purpose instead of pressure. Over time, this mindset changes how you experience life. You become more engaged in the present moment. You find satisfaction in effort itself. The journey becomes meaningful regardless of destination. This inner fulfillment is independent of success or failure. Detachment from outcomes does not make you passive. It makes you resilient. It allows you to pursue goals without being consumed by them. This balance creates strength. When you commit fully to action and release attachment to results, you become difficult to discourage and impossible to manipulate. Your focus remains steady. Your energy remains intact. Your mind becomes calm, disciplined, and powerful. This is the strength that does not seek attention, but commands respect through consistency and clarity. The ego is loud, reactive, and constantly seeking validation. It wants recognition, control, and superiority. Most people are driven by it without realizing. A strong mind learns to live below the ego rather than above it. Living below the ego does not mean lacking confidence. It means not being controlled by the need to be seen, heard, or admired. This restraint is a form of power. Ego demands attention. It pushes you to speak even when silence would be wiser. It urges you to defend yourself, prove your worth, and compare yourself to others. These impulses drain energy. They turn life into a constant performance. A strong mind refuses this exhaustion. It conserves energy by acting with intention rather than ego. When you live below your ego, you stop measuring yourself against others. Comparison creates insecurity and arrogance at the same time. It pulls your attention outward instead of inward. Strength grows from self-mastery, not superiority. By focusing on your own discipline and growth, you detach from the need to outshine anyone. Ego reacts quickly. It takes offense easily. It cannot tolerate criticism or disagreement. A mind ruled by ego is fragile because it depends on constant affirmation. Living below the ego means you can hear feedback without collapsing or attacking. You listen, evaluate, and decide what is useful. This maturity builds resilience. Silence is a powerful tool in ego management. The ego wants the last word. Strength allows space. When you do not rush to respond, you regain control. Your calm presence speaks louder than arguments. People notice when you do not engage in unnecessary conflict. They sense depth and stability. Living below the ego also changes how you experience success. Success no longer inflates you, and failure no longer defines you. Both are experiences, not identities. This balance protects your mental health and keeps you grounded. You remain consistent regardless of circumstance. Ego seeks instant gratification. It wants recognition now, results now, praise now. A strong mind accepts delayed reward. It understands that real growth takes time. This patience separates discipline from impulse. When you can work without immediate recognition, you develop inner strength. People driven by ego are predictable. They react to praise and criticism. They seek approval and fear rejection. When you live below your ego, you become unpredictable in a calm way. You do not react as expected. This composure unsettles those who rely on emotional leverage. Living below the ego also deepens humility. Humility is not weakness, it is clarity. It allows you to see your limitations without self-judgment. This honesty creates space for improvement. Ego resists growth because it fears imperfection. Strength embraces growth because it values progress. Your communication becomes more intentional. You speak to add value, not to dominate. You listen fully instead of waiting to respond. This presence builds trust and respect. People feel heard and understood around you, even when you say little. As ego loses control, your actions become more aligned with your values. You stop chasing image and start building substance. Your discipline becomes quiet. Your confidence becomes steady. This inner alignment is felt by others. It does not need explanation. Living below the ego also reduces mental noise. The mind becomes clearer when it is not constantly defending an image. Clarity improves focus, creativity, and decision-making. You move through life with less friction. A strong mind does not seek to eliminate the ego completely. It learns to keep it in its place. The ego becomes a tool rather than a master. You use it when necessary, but you are not ruled by it. When you live below your ego, you move through the world with quiet authority. You do not need to announce yourself or compete for attention. Your presence is grounded, calm, and confident. This depth is rare. People sense it immediately. A mind that is not driven by ego is difficult to disturb. It does not rise with praise or fall with criticism. It remains stable, focused, and disciplined. This stability is intimidating not because it is aggressive, but because it reflects self-mastery. And self-mastery is the foundation of true strength. True mental strength is not built in moments of recognition. It is built in moments of solitude, when no one is watching, applauding, or validating your effort. Consistency in private is the foundation of a strong mind, because it removes performance from the equation. When you show up only when others can see you, your discipline is fragile. When you show up in private, your discipline becomes real. Most people rely on motivation, and motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls with mood, environment, and external encouragement. A strong mind does not wait for motivation. It operates on commitment. Private consistency trains this commitment. You act because it is required, not because it feels rewarding. This ability separates discipline from impulse. When no one is watching, excuses become tempting. The mind begins to negotiate. It tells you that missing one day does not matter, that effort can be delayed, that comfort is justified. Each time you give in, the mind learns that discipline is optional. Each time you follow through, the mind learns obedience. Over time, this obedience becomes automatic. Consistency in private builds integrity. Integrity is alignment between what you say and what you do, even when there is no external pressure. This alignment creates self-respect. Self-respect is quiet confidence. It does not depend on approval or recognition. People feel this confidence even if they cannot explain it. Private practice also exposes weakness honestly. Without an audience, there is no image to protect. You see your laziness, your impatience, and your resistance clearly. This clarity is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. You cannot correct what you refuse to acknowledge. Private effort allows you to work on weaknesses without distraction or ego. The repetition of small, disciplined actions compounds over time. What feels insignificant daily becomes powerful over months and years. Most people underestimate this process because they look for dramatic change. A strong mind trusts gradual improvement. It values consistency over intensity. This patience builds resilience. Consistency in private also reduces fear of failure. When effort becomes routine, outcomes lose their emotional charge. You are no longer defined by success or failure, because you are defined by showing up. This mindset stabilizes the mind. You stop fearing judgment because your validation comes from within. People who are consistent in private move differently in public. They are calm because they are prepared. They are confident because they have trained. They are not desperate for attention because their foundation is already built. This quiet readiness is intimidating to those who rely on appearance rather than substance. Private consistency strengthens focus. You learn to work without stimulation, without praise, and without distraction. This ability is rare in a world addicted to attention. When you can focus deeply and consistently, your capacity increases. You become more effective with less effort. The discipline built in private carries into all areas of life. Relationships become steadier. Decisions become clearer. Emotions become more manageable. You trust yourself because you have proven reliability through action. This trust eliminates inner conflict. Consistency in private also builds humility. You realize how much effort growth requires. You stop judging others because you understand the process deeply. This humility keeps the ego in check and allows continuous improvement. A strong mind is predictable to itself, but unpredictable to others. It does not rely on mood or circumstance. It operates from routine and principle. This reliability creates inner stability. When challenges arise, you do not panic. You return to your practices. You rely on habits built in silence. This reliance provides strength during uncertainty. Practicing consistency in private is not glamorous. It does not bring immediate recognition. But it builds something far more valuable: mental independence. You are no longer driven by external forces. You are guided by internal discipline. When your effort is consistent regardless of attention, your mind becomes steady, resilient, and grounded. This strength does not announce itself. It is revealed in how you move, how you respond, and how you endure. And that quiet strength is what truly scares people, not because it seeks power, but because it embodies it. A strong mind is not something you display. It is something you become. It is built slowly, deliberately, and often invisibly. Through silence, discipline, restraint, endurance, detachment, humility, and consistency, you shape an inner world that cannot be shaken by noise, pressure, or opinion. This is not the kind of strength that seeks attention or dominance. It is the kind that stands firm without effort. When your mind is strong, you do not need to react to every challenge, explain yourself to every critic, or prove your worth to anyone. You move with calm intention. You choose your actions instead of being pulled by emotion. You remain steady when others panic. This steadiness is rare, and that rarity is why it unsettles people. A strong mind scares people not because it is aggressive, but because it is independent. It does not depend on approval, comfort, or outcomes. It is disciplined in private and composed in public. It has faced discomfort, endured emotion, and released ego. It knows itself. This is not a destination you reach once. It is a practice you return to daily. Each moment of silence, each act of discipline, each controlled response strengthens the foundation. Over time, your presence changes. You become grounded. You become reliable. You become unmovable. Do not rush this process. Do not announce it. Build quietly. Let your actions speak. Let your calm reflect your work. In a world driven by reaction and noise, be still. Be disciplined. Be consistent. Because when the mind is strong, it does not seek power. It becomes it.